Guys, what do women do that give you the ick? 1. For when you're in a relationship. When you're with friends and they become distinctly less pleasant to you than when you're alone, like making fun of you and making jokes at your expense which they normally would not make. Have had it in more than one relationship. Like, what is that about? Over-the-top solipsism. That whole I don't perceive it that way, therefore you perceiving it that way cannot be valid mindset. Loudly empathizing with every cause and group on the planet but treating people in their personal lives like trash. Mentioning their ex constantly. Denigrating and emasculating men who show emotions. It's honestly one of the most fucked up things anyone can do to another person. Also, using a man's kids as pawns in disputes, like cutting off visitation because you're mad at him. Don't fucking do that, it's just cruel to the kids. I think not taking accountability is the biggest one. You've messed up / were rude / incorrect / whatever, but just doubling down and never apologizing or admitting fault is so unattractive. Just own it and apologize like a grown-up. I'm sorry but etc. One time an ex screamed at her 2-year-old nephew. Instantly unattractive. In Scotland. Obvious fake tan and overdone makeup. You're in fucking Glasgow, not Madrid. Confusing confidence with being inconsiderate. When they think a toxic trait of theirs is cute / quirky. There's a big difference between being blunt in a respectful way and being a bitch. The fucking testing. I appreciate that you have been in previous relationships where someone lied and / or cheated on you, but don't spend your entire single life trying to catch me in some lie so you can have your self-fulfilling prophecy that all men are liars. Lie about how they feel. Silent treatment. I've hated it for the longest time. When you do something wrong and you try to apologize and they say nothing is even worse, just hurtful. I saw a cute girl on a treadmill at the gym sneeze 4 times and not attempt to cover her mouth once. Absolutely disgusted me. Cleaning my wife's hair out of the drains grosses me out to the point where I gag. Why? I had no problem with other gross things. I can even clean up my dog's vomit with little to no gagging. If you found yourself blessed with 3 months of abundant free time, where all your basic needs are met and you have the delightful addition of $500 in spending money each month, how would you spend your time? Sleep for the first week, then start doing all the projects around the house. Don't judge me please, I just want 3 months of eating good food I don't have to make myself and plays The Sims 4. I guess I could go to Five Guys like 4 times. $500 a month? I guess stay home. The same things I do now with any time off of work. Read, play video game, binge watch YouTube / Netflix. I'd just enjoy my time off not having to deal with other humans. I'd just be doing it for 3 months instead of 2 days. Recently quit my job and have savings. I have a few interviews, so I'm not worried about being out of work for long. Turns out I have just done random projects around the house, cleaned my house, read some books, and have reverted to my natural circadian rhythm, which is not getting up before noon. So, basically nothing. And it's amazing. Hookers and blow, minus the hookers or blow as they are expensive and I only have $500 spending money. Why were you ashamed of yourself like never before? When I was a little kid, probably 1st grade or so, I remember being super mad at my mom for something. That day, I was using a coffee can to trace for circles. I would then use the circles to make faces. Then I would color in the faces. I did them for my dad and my siblings and my teacher. Then I did one for my mom, and when I was showing her, I took a red crayon and drew a big X across her face on the page. I was angry. I don't even remember why. But I will never forget the look on her face. It was like I destroyed her soul. She was just so defeated and sad. Not like a play sad. Like real sadness. Looking back at it with adult eyes, I am sure she was frustrated being a mom of multiple kids, on a one-income household, and there is no telling what was going on in her marriage at the time. Plus that was about the time she lost her father. So I know it was a difficult time in her life and that she didn't need that kind of bullshit from me. So when I drew that X, I think I actually hurt her in some way. That was almost 40 years ago and it still makes me ashamed to think about it. It's funny how certain memories from your early childhood are burned into your brain and rest just disappear. I was never the most patient person and I despise being late for things. My wife, kids, and I were going to walk down and hang out at a neighbor's house for the evening. They were taking forever and my wife kept stalling and we were going to be late. I yelled at all of them to hurry up and proceeded to be pissed off the whole walk down. When we walked in, it was a surprise party for me. She was delaying because they hadn't finished the decorations yet. Felt like a complete piece of shit. This was 10 years ago and it still bothers me. Definitely taught me to be a more patient person though. After my father passed, it hit me how little time I had spent with him. I'll never get that time back, and if I allow myself to think about it too much, it rips me to shreds. I loved him so much, but I was fresh out of the house and living with my boyfriend and trying to be an adult. My father was battling cancer, and I could have gone to visit him so many times, but I didn't. If I could go back in time and scream in my own face to sit with him every day, I'd do it in a heartbeat. He deserved so much better. The 25th of June was the 7th anniversary of his death. This time of year always hurts extra. Always make time for the people you love. You're not guaranteed tomorrow, and regret is a potent poison. When I was 12 or 13 I used to steal money from my grandma. I used to take advantage of the fact she was old and not very mobile and take money from her purse or from an envelope she kept in her wardrobe. Not huge amounts of money, perhaps 150 in total spread across a couple of years. She was the loveliest, kindest person I've ever met and I never heard her say a bad word about anyone or complain when she was in poor health. The worst part is I think that perhaps she knew but wouldn't have said anything as she wouldn't have wanted to get me in trouble. She passed over 20 years ago, I was with her when she went. I'm 47 now but still think about it often and am so ashamed of it. When I was 19 I fell for one of those fake check scams. My mom had to help me pay the bank $2,500. I've since paid her back but I was so ashamed of myself. I had never broken down and sobbed so hard in front of someone. Few years back went to visit my sister. At the time I reached at her home I had to pee really bad, I was so full I was walking funny. My sister, her husband, and his mother came to greet me at the door. I said I need to use the toilet immediately and we all entered the house. Just then my little niece rushed from inside and hugged me. Her head hit my lower abdomen really hard and I peed right there. I did stop as quickly as possible but I had a big wet patch on my pant. My grandmother was my favorite person in the world. Since I was a baby, she sent one real pearl at Christmas. When I was in my early 20s, she made them into a real pearl necklace. She passed away not too long after that. A few years later, I went to a school competition and lost that necklace. I still feel physically ill when I think about it. EDA, y'all, thank you. So many supportive comments. To those of you who have had the same experience, big hugs to you. Back in elementary school, my class, including me, I won't play victim here, made fun of the nice teacher so much that he started crying. I've never felt so ashamed of myself until that moment. I still feel like shit up to this day. I've never seen him again after elementary school, so I never had the chance to say sorry. When I was 17 I drove home from a friend's house one evening and parked in our attached garage. I had not been drinking, but being a scatterbrain, I forgot the keys in the ignition and the car was on. It ran all night, pumping carbon monoxide into the house where I lived alone with my mom. In the morning my mom woke me up in a frenzy saying we had to get out of the house. She'd been looking forward to a breakfast with her friends but had to have one of them drive us to the hospital instead. We had to get put on oxygen, my mom for much longer than I because her bedroom was closer to the garage so she inhaled more carbon monoxide. Nurses asked me if it was a suicide attempt, and when I insisted it wasn't they didn't believe me. The look in their eyes as they saw me and thought I tried to murder-suicide my mom still haunts me. I was so ashamed and wished I could actually kill myself for being so stupid. When I was 18 I started stealing money out of the register at the mom and pop store where I worked. I can't even tell you why I did it. I had never stolen even a candy bar before but I started stealing large amounts of cash by falsifying refunds on the register. It went on for about a year and then one day I was called into the office where two detectives were waiting. I had stolen over $17,000 in a year. That wasn't the shameful part. The shameful part was telling my dad that I was being charged with 7 felonies but that if he paid the grocery store back they would drop all charges. I don't know how he ever forgave me for this. He is the most honorable person I know and the look of disgust on his face when I told him has stuck with me forever. And of course he paid them back for me. I'm 31 now and have mostly paid him back but it is still something that makes me really upset. I don't think I've ever forgiven myself for being so stupid. When I was growing up, I lived in a hoarder house, the yucky animal poop kind. I was a kid, I had no control over my environment, so I just had to keep a low profile to not draw attention of CPS. We were on government assistance and all that. A few instances come to mind. In high school I was a lunch ticket kid, meaning I was on a program where I got free school lunches. On Mondays before first period, I'd go to the cafeteria to collect my week's worth of lunch tickets. It was always the same lunch lady who passed them out. One day, totally randomly, she passes me my tickets and says something to the effect that I was a leech and mooch on the system, griping how she works for her food, and I should too? It was so weird and random I just didn't think to fight her on it. She was a grown-up, so she must be right, right? Second thing also happened in high school. I got called to the guidance office, and my guidance counselor handed me smoking cessation brochures and said if I wanted help quitting smoking, she could help. Thing is, I didn't smoke, at all. It actually grossed me out, and it still does to this day. My mom smoked in the house and I guess I stunk so bad of cigarettes that someone filed a complaint to the school about me. If it's any consolation, I'm now an honest middle-class taxpayer. Please no hate. I did a bunch of drugs and drank a lot when I was younger. I ended up in the hospital as a result. I remember having to explain to the doctor all the drugs I took, how often, how much I drank. I knew he'd probably heard it all before and was just trying to understand my condition. I sincerely doubt he was judging me too harshly. Or maybe he was, who knows. Regardless, I just remember feeling immense shame when I was explaining that I basically hadn't given a fuck about myself for the last 13 years. That was a lonely place. 22 years ago a friend trusted me and told she has epilepsy and the medication made her gain weight. I was only one outside family she shared within 8 years. And as a silly teenager I disclosed her secret to my that time crush who made it public info. I felt so small and ashamed of myself. Still ashamed of myself though she forgave me for it, which made the guilt worse. I DoorDashed myself 4 sets of Twinkies from the gas station down the street. Went to the bank and the lady who was helping me told me about a savings account I could set up and the benefits of it. Didn't really care about it but she seemed nice so I thought yeah sure why not. She wanted to show how easy it was to do so she asked to use my phone and do it and I said sure. I just held my phone flat on my palm facing towards her while she went on Safari and then boom. Ebony wants it in all 3 holes with thumbnail big as fuck on the screen because I forgot to switch from private to normal. She created a new tab really fast and done what she intended to do and we both acted like she didn't see what she saw but I died inside and couldn't stop thinking about it for the following days.